On the line with us today is Joe Marini, Associate Vice President of Human Resources, Organization Development at TD Bank, and Joe is located in Toronto. Joe, why don't you give us a bit of background on yourself and TD?
Thank you, Dorene. Good day, everyone. My name is Joe Marini. I work in organization development at TD Bank. That includes monitoring, helping create, design, develop, and implement our mentoring programs. Obviously, at TD, we do a range of organization development activities that are linked to all sorts of strategies and programs, which I'll talk about in my presentation. I've been with the bank for a long time. I've been involved in organization development work for a long time, and I'm pleased to participate in this because I've had some experience myself as a mentor, as a mentee, both with immigrant populations and with other situations.
Great, thank you. We also have Kari Giddings, the Employee Relations Advisor at Canadian Pacific Rail in Calgary. Kari, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and Canadian Pacific?
Sure. So Canadian Pacific is one of our national freight railways, and I've been with CP for over 20 years, working in the area of human rights and diversity and employment equity. I develop and coordinate our diversity and employment equity programs, and one of the action plans that we have is the mentoring program for professional immigrants, and we're happy to be participating on this call with TRIAC because we're looking to expand into the Toronto area and continue building our mentoring program.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you both. I look forward to our conversation. Here are a few housekeeping details for us and just a few notes on the webinar technology as we get started. So listeners, you know that you have been muted to minimize the background noise and feedback, but we still welcome any questions you may have. You can type them in the chat field that you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. We'll have a question and answer period at the end of the webinar. During our session, we may also ask you some questions through a polling feature, which you will also see on your screen. The recording of this presentation and the PowerPoint slides will be made available online for those unable to join us today, or you're also welcome to review or share any part of the presentation that we go through today. Over the course of the next hour, we'll look at how mentoring helps skilled immigrants overcome barriers to employment and how it benefits mentors and the organizations they work for. We'll talk about some of the resources available to help employers to start mentoring programs. We'll hear from Kari at CP and Joe at TD about how their respective organizations mentor skilled immigrants and the benefits they have experienced. I'll also share with you some of what was learned at the recent Allies Mentoring Conference, which was held earlier this month. Our hope is that these stories will spark some ideas for you on how you can create or build upon mentoring programs in your own organization. So we'll reserve the last 15 minutes for your questions. If we don't cover them in the course of the webinar, we'll certainly hold on to them and get them in the question and answer period. So let's move on to the main content. We know that immigrants are a key source for building and strengthening Canada in light of our aging population and our declining birth rate. Canada brings in roughly 250,000 immigrants per year, and of these, skilled immigrants make up the largest group. But only about 4 out of 10 skilled immigrants are able to find employment that's relative to their education and experience. Not only is this bad for immigrants, but the Canadian economy suffers as well, with a Conference Board of Canada study finding it costs the economy $3.4 billion to $5 billion in lost earnings every single year. There are several reasons newcomers have difficulty finding appropriate jobs. They lack professional networks in Canada, they may not understand the local labor market, and may not have knowledge of local industries and potential employers. In addition, it can be very confusing to learn about all the employment or job training placement opportunities, and in fact, they may not have access to them once they find them. The other piece of the puzzle is the employer side. At the same time, many employers perceive hiring newcomers as risky and seem unwilling to value the education and experience people have gained outside of Canada, even if their language is English. So how does mentoring help? Mentoring is a way to help immigrants overcome those barriers. It connects skilled immigrants to established professionals in the same or related occupations or industries, which in turn opens networks and allows them to build relationships that lead to employment. An evaluation of the Toronto Region Immigrant Employment Council's mentoring partnership found that nearly 80% of mentees found a job after being mentored, and of those, 85% found a job in their field. The same study showed that about 67% of mentees said that their average annual salary increased after mentoring, and 98% had a better understanding of relevant professional skills and how to customize their resume for the profession. So the information they got through those one-to-one connections with people really made a difference. Let's do a quick survey of how many of you already have a program in place to mentor skilled immigrants. Just click on your answer on screen. Okay, I don't see any results yet, so I'm going to carry on. Oh, there's the answer. There's the question. The numbers are coming up like magic. The benefits to skilled immigrants are obvious, but what you might not know about are the benefits that mentors experience. So we'll go on to that in a second. So right now, it seems that 27% have a formal program, 31% have an informal program, and 40% don't. So that's a good split, and I'm sure that all of you will benefit from this conversation. So let's go on then and look at benefits for mentors. By being a mentor, and Joe, you have been one yourself, you will improve your coaching skills, develop stronger leadership and communication skills, and will be better able to work with diverse teams. Many mentors talked to us when we did the evaluation about the satisfaction of helping someone realize their potential and how important it was to them to be able to give back to the community. For others, it was also a chance to learn more about themselves and about other cultures. A number of mentors talked about how mentoring gave them insight into the immigrant experience of their parents. And I'd like to read to you a quote from one person who felt very strongly about carrying the torch for his family. "I'm a first-generation Canadian. My brother and I were the first children to go through university in Canada and enter the workforce. I carry my family's struggles with me and have the utmost respect for people who take the leap to immigrate. I will never stop." That's a very powerful statement. The evaluation of the mentoring partnership also found that after mentoring skilled immigrants, more mentors understood the barriers faced by skilled immigrants, appreciated the skills and assets newcomers bring to Canada, actively promoted the case for integrating skilled newcomers among coworkers, and you'll see the fourth line there, they would hire or refer skilled newcomers with the right skills, and were confident that they could work effectively with a recent newcomer. So you can see that the change is positive in all of those 5 areas. These benefits spill over to the companies who employ the mentors, and there are many of them. Mentoring enhances leadership skills and cross-cultural competencies in the organization. Employees who mentor develop skills and abilities which are valuable in a multicultural workplace. It's also a means to understand future clients by getting to know newcomers' needs, and it contributes to employer branding at the local and national levels. Mentoring skilled immigrants can also become part of an organization's recruitment strategy by raising the awareness of the organization of the skilled immigrant talent pool. At the same time, it increases the organization's profile as an employer of choice for skilled immigrants. Lastly, mentoring supports volunteerism within the organization and reinforces its core values on diversity. Even though there are many different benefits of mentoring, Setting up a mentoring program at your organization doesn't have to be a daunting task. There are many supports available to you. For example, Allies and its network of immigrant employment councils provide a turnkey or ready-to-use solution in each city. Here's how your local employment council may be able to help you. It can provide material for you to market the program to your employees. It delivers information sessions to employees about mentoring, giving them a chance to ask questions and learn more about what's going on. It provides a mentor orientation. In partnership with community agencies who recruit the mentees, the program provides coaching and support to both mentor and mentee throughout the length of their match. Your local immigrant employment council is responsible for quality assurance and provides feedback to the employer on statistics about staff's participation. It also provides media coverage opportunities, a way for organizations to highlight their success and build their brand. So it's all sounding wonderful. Let's hear from some people who are involved in it. Some of the many employers engaged in mentoring as corporate partners in one or more cities include Canadian Pacific, SNC-Lavalin, 3M, RBC, Ernst & Young, and the cities of Toronto, Calgary, and Vancouver, among many other organizations. Kari, I understand that CP is part of the Calgary Region Immigrant Employment Council's Mentoring Collaborative. How did that come about?
Well, we've been involved in a number of work experiences. We've partnered with a number of immigrant serving organizations. And last summer, the Calgary Regional Immigrant Employment Council started up a mentoring collaborative pilot that works with all of those organizations. So we became involved in the pilot. As I said, our employees have been mentoring or being involved in hosting work experiences and therefore mentoring professional immigrants for about 8 years through the work experience program. We've been partnering with Bow Valley, the Calgary Center for Newcomers, Calgary Immigrant Women's Association. And so during those work placements, the managers that were hosting the candidates were, of course, coaching and mentoring the participants. And so this just seemed like an opportunity to really benefit from a more formal program. So the benefits that we saw and that we've experienced are that some of the things that you've mentioned already, Dorene, they augment our diversity initiatives, both from an outreach and recruitment perspective, as well as raising internal awareness with our employees. It has offered an opportunity to get CP's name out in the community as an employer and help attract skilled immigrants. In fact, the Calgary, Bow Valley, as well as a couple of the other organizations I mentioned, nominated CP for one of the Immigrant Employment Awards last year. They expose our managers to potential candidates and help managers build their mentoring skills and intercultural competency. So we not only get benefit from and experience from the newcomers' expertise and skills, but we're building our employees and managers' skill base. One of the examples that I wanted to mention was a situation last year where we had been contacted. This is kind of dual diversity here, but we'd been contacted by the Canadian Paraplegic Association about a new immigrant who'd come from Venezuela and was looking for a job shadowing opportunity in the railway industry. He had logistics background. So we arranged for a job shadow with us for 5 days, and then through that, he learned from us about the Bow Valley Corporate Readiness Training Program available in Calgary, and he signed up for that program, and then through that came back to us for a work experience. He built a lot of his skills there, became aware of our hiring procedures as well as our employment needs, and applied for a part-time position with us. He got that job, and then over a course of a few months, got a full-time job with our customer service group. And I speak with him fairly frequently, and earlier this month he told me he was quite excited that the marketing group has tapped him to take on some accounts in our Mexico facility because of his Spanish fluency. So that is quite a story and a real success. And he is a fantastic person. He's been so into assisting us with this program because of the benefits he's received. He also worked with me and came out to talk to the Calgary Immigrant Women's Association. So kind of a success, breeding more success and getting, the word out more about CP. He's very articulate and he has a lot of skills that I don't, particularly around PowerPoint, and he helped me put together that presentation, and I've been able to tap him as a resource in developing presentations. Just recently I was in touch with him on something else, so we've become good friends and good colleagues, and it really has been a win-win. So with that process with this person had started before the CRIAC pilot, but as soon as that became available, we jumped on it because of successes like that.
That's wonderful that you were so in tune with what your community has to offer. I'm sure that made a big difference for you.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the experience like for you?
With the CRIAC program, I guess it started off as a pilot, like I said. So there was just 4 employees from CP, including myself, who were matched with skilled immigrants. CRIAC offers a 24-week session. So we signed up and went through that process. And it was very successful. All 4 of us found it beneficial, and so we decided to sign up and continue. We felt that the pilot was a success. So as a company, we wanted to continue and build on that success. So we've just completed the second kind of round where we had 9 mentors involved. 2 of them were kind of repeat mentors. So once you start doing this, a number of people I've noticed want to continue. You mentioned that quote earlier, Dorene. So the matches are based on profession. Our employees are matched with somebody who is in a similar profession or wants to get into that profession. And it allows the mentor to share his or her experiences with the mentee and help them navigate the particulars of that profession. CRIAC provided us with a lot of support. They gave us, a workbook. There's a structure for the hour-long face-to-face meetings, which you can follow or you can use as a baseline and then go where your mentee needs to go. They've also provided us with workshops on intercultural communication and cultural perception, as well as ideas on, activities that you can do with your mentor or mentee. So each match has a coordinator that comes from one of the supporting community organizations. And they stay in touch with us and help us out if there are any problems or concerns. So to start off with, and that's what the picture there is on the screen, is the launch, and that's where CRIAC clearly sets the expectations for both parties in the mentor relationship. So things like respecting each other's time, keeping a professional relationship. As a mentor, you're not expected to find that individual a job. What you're there for is to assist them in attaining their goals, which likely is a job, but there may be things that they need to do before they actually get into the job search, or that they need to enhance this to be successful. So you're not, committed to finding them a job in your company. You're there to assist them in meeting their goals. And so their CRIAP brings you together and gives you the support, and then offers support throughout the process. And as I said, every mentee situation is unique, so they have to develop their own goals to achieve and set stages of getting to those goals. And as a mentor, we try to find out where they are along their path, what their goals are, what are the resources that they may need. Just an example, for example, an engineer might need to get some specific work experience or some accreditation. So you just help them, guide them along that route. I was able to arrange information interviews for my mentees, who of course were interested in the HR field. So we did information interviews. I had them attend a couple of meetings or sessions that I was attending, and it helped my current mentee establish where she wanted to go within that field. She was trying to switch careers. So other things that we did was simulations of job interviews. We looked at online job postings to help get familiar with the HR lingo. So if you're in a different profession, you would help them understand what the code words are in the profession, in finance or engineering. And as a result of our pilot, it was actually quite successful. 3 of the mentees out of 4 found positions during that process, and one of them ended up returning to Pakistan during the floods of last year, you may recall. And so life intervenes, and people follow their paths, but we were really excited to see the progress and also the learning that we all had through the process. So it's good to keep track of and communicate these successes internally. We try to inform our employees and through our own communication services at CP to keep everybody up to date on these successes and generate more mentors.
Great. I'm really pleased to hear about your successes, but tell us a little bit about the challenges, because surely there are always challenges with starting up a new program.
Yes. Well, finding mentors can be a little bit of a challenge. It wasn't so difficult, but people are usually concerned about the amount of time it will take to do that. And some of our mentors have felt, well, I haven't really helped that much. And so what we did was I decided to get our mentors together once or twice during the mentorship period so that we could share ideas, challenges, and resources, so that people wouldn't feel so alone and wouldn't be kind of floundering as far as what they can give to the mentor. And there's a lot that we each have to offer. So we were able to learn from each other, and we had a meeting actually yesterday from the latest round, and it was a good sharing and good ideas that came out. So we're looking at planning for next year, or not next year, the next round, excuse me. We also, one of the things that we try to do is recognize the mentors for the time that they've put into the program. The picture on the screen there is one of our real champions. Joyce Ng is one of the managers at CP and has been involved in the mentoring before we got into the formal process. And she continues to be. And so we recognized her through our internal recognition program, and actually last year she ended up received the President's Award for Diversity Leadership. So it's important to recognize the employees because they're putting in extra time. The mentoring usually occurs during work hours, but it means that other work isn't being done. So it's good to have their managers recognizing that and showing support.
So how did you get your company on board in supporting mentoring, especially because, as you just mentioned, mentors can use work time for their participation?
Well, it's about showing the business case for mentoring skilled immigrants. And we do have a business case. We're facing the retirement bubble. So we have quite a few employees retiring and people that need to be replaced, and we're well aware of the workforce demographics. So there's that, as well as mentoring gives the CP managers a direct link to potentially valuable talent. And then, of course, there's our diversity and employment equity goals. So we want to be more reflective of Canadian society, and that links into our business goals as a service provider and working with numerous companies within Canada. We want to have people that are reflective of the Canadian population. And we feel that by mentoring skilled immigrants, our employees can be more responsive to customers from other cultural backgrounds. So we've been able to benefit by connecting with very talented mentees. We've ended up hiring a number of people and have been leveraging their skills and professional experiences. And I mentioned we had a little meeting with our mentor group yesterday, and one of the mentors had said how much he benefited from learning about how they did business. His mentee did business in a country that he came from, and that's the route that CP is going. So it's beneficial from a business perspective.
And I understand that you plan to expand your program beyond Calgary.
Yes, we are looking to connect with Triac in Toronto, as well as other major cities. So we're just kind of phasing it in, and you're always balancing between the different business needs. But yes, we are.
Good to hear. Let's talk a little bit about what it means to take a mentoring national and how it can benefit your company. It ensures that all employees, regardless of location, can reap the benefits of being volunteer mentors. And it ensures that the company is consistently reaching out to diverse talent pools wherever they may be. And we know that lots of people are willing to relocate if the right job is out there for them. Allies and the Immigrant Employment Councils will help you set up a mentoring program in one location. And Allies can also facilitate the launch of the program in multiple cities throughout what they're calling the National Mentoring Initiative. This national initiative provides the employer with access to mentoring programs with common core criteria, and yet it respects local realities. So what that means is there would be similar criteria around level of English language, length of time in Canada, etc. It helps to establish mentoring as a successful method for employers to participate in skilled immigrant integration across the country. The same process doesn't work for all organizations, and the national initiative allows for that flexibility and individuality. Some national employers choose to start a pilot in one city and then use the learning from the pilot to expand to 2 or 3 more, while others start in multiple cities all at once because they've done their homework and they've identified a local champion in each of their branches. Mentoring programs are already up and running in Edmonton, Calgary, London Middlesex, Kitchener-Waterloo, Toronto, Niagara, Ottawa, Montreal, and Halifax. And soon there will be programs in Vancouver, North Bay, and the province of New Brunswick. Now I'm going to give you another list. Currently, TD Bank, KPMG, Pitney Bowes, RBC, and Deloitte are all part of the national initiative. Joel, your turn. Can you tell us about how TD became involved?
Absolutely, Dorene. Thank you very much. Happy to do that. TD has been a long-time supporter of and an initial participant in the Mentoring Partnership, which is a Triac, Toronto Regional Immigrant Employment Council. It's a program that started in 2004. To date, we've had over 700 mentors participate, and in the last round of recruitment, we had over 80 new people sign up. And I would say that mentoring, at TD we do both group and individual mentoring activities, is critical piece of what we refer to as our integrated talent and leadership development agenda. And it's also a critical part of our unique, inclusive performance and development culture. So, it's been a good experience for us and an integral part of what we're trying to do as a company. I can certainly share, as Kari did, a story that I'm very familiar with regarding a lady named Farah Azur, who was being mentored, was not a bank employee, but was being mentored by a colleague of mine through TRIAC, and certainly built a very strong relationship with her mentor and took advantage of opportunities to develop herself. And eventually we brought her into TD through CareerBridge to an internship situation where she could get some experience. And, that led to, continuing to, engage in a relationship with her mentor, opportunity to get some relationships with other people in TD. When her internship expired, she was successful in landing first one contract job and then another contract job as a result of the relationships she'd built within TD. And today, Farah now has a permanent full-time job in a field that's very familiar to her based on her prior experience before coming to Canada. And, continues to progress and develop in her career, applying her business skills in a new and different way that benefits both herself and herself and the organization. She continued to informally maintain relationships with the various people she'd mentored, and actually wound up nominating her mentor for Mentor of the Year award with CareerBridge. And she didn't win, but was certainly one of the finalists. So we were delighted for Farah, and it's certainly been something that we've been very proud of over the past few years. So let me take a moment now and just tell you a little bit about our support for the National Allies Program. Our support of this was born out of the success we'd experienced with the mentoring partnership. We wanted other cities to have the necessary support in place to grow their own programs to meet the needs of their partners, the agencies, and other stakeholders. And, as a result of that, we've been able to support and make available to various mentoring initiatives a number of tools and solutions that you'll see on the screen there in front of you. Coaching that's available to through the mentoring programs, the coaches who can assist with various aspects of the program. Programs, training programs, resources for managers and other participants through, whether it's in-person conferences, webinars like this one, or other knowledge sharing activities. We've developed a host of tools and resources to support both mentors and mentees, printed materials, webinars like this as well. And we've also participated in development of a national QA framework to make sure that the experience is reasonably consistent across, across Canada. So as Dorene mentioned, there are, programs in at least 9 cities, lots more about to launch. We have mentors participating in most, if not all, those centers, and we're certainly actively working to expand that number regularly. Our mantra here at TD now is all mentoring all the time.
Oh, that's great. Tell us a little more about the internal workings of mentoring at TD. Sure.
So I think what I'll do, Dorene, is kind of talk about 3 things. First of all, I'll talk a little bit about culture, then I'll talk a little bit about our approach and some of the experiences that we've had with our mentoring activities. It's very similar to what Kari described. I'll start off by saying that at TD we are building what we refer to as a performance and development culture. And our strategy around that is that the employee owns their performance and their development, and leaders and managers have to enable that. So the employee owns their development. That means that they have to create their own development plan. But the people manager, the leader, has to be accountable for planning and giving some context to that, both around resource planning, succession planning, what are the capability and capacity requirements that would inform a good development plan. So they have to, it's not like the employees on their own. The manager has to enable it and support it. This is the way we link people and business strategy. Every business strategy demands a people strategy, and people strategies have to be developed in the context of business priorities. And what we've learned is that, the leaders have a responsibility to conduct plans, communicate these to employees, have conversations about their role, what their development opportunities are, what their priorities should be, and what their development plan would look like. So as a result, these things bring together, all the elements of effective performance and development, objective setting, development planning, coaching, resource planning, assessment, and even ultimately it affects, compensation and reward outcomes. So, this is applicable to all employees, and it's not unique to our diversity cohorts. But the diversity lens is an important one to apply when we create these kinds of programs. Second, the third item I would refer to here is what we call our comprehensive development approach. And this says that this is a strategy that we've created that says we have to link on-the-job training, formal classroom experiences, other kinds of formal learning activities, and the relationships that we all engage in or develop through our course at work or off the job. And the development takes place in all these environments. I think Kari touched on this a little bit, and it's not identical for every employee in every situation. So it has to be adapted and flexible. And the point about all this with respect to mentoring is that mentoring is a solution within development planning, and it's aligned to this comprehensive development strategy. So, the employee has to do their development plan first, working with their manager, and identify what development objective or development outcome they're looking for, and then determine if mentoring is an appropriate solution. And it could be individual mentoring, it could be a group mentoring situation. And that's the key. What we're trying to make sure is that mentoring is a learning solution. It's not a perquisite, it's not a course, it's not a networking opportunity. It's a customized learning activity that relates to a specific development objective. So moving on to a little bit about, TD and what is mentoring at TD. It's an on-the-job development activity. I think that's pretty clear to most people engaged in this activity, where learning occurs through the exchange of ideas, knowledge, experiences, and challenges. There's advantages and opportunities for all the stakeholders in this. Certainly, the organization, has a chance to transfer knowledge more effectively, grow capabilities, and emulate or demonstrate the desired culture and values that we're looking to have. The business leverages the strengths of their employees, maximizes the resources because it is a constraint. The employees or the mentees obviously achieve their development objectives. And again, I think as Kari mentioned in her brief talk, mentors grow out of this as well in terms of their leadership skills, their personal satisfaction, their ability to build for the future through knowledge transfer, capability growth, and so forth. So lots of advantages for everybody. A couple of the key highlights I'd want people to take away from this: mentoring is informal but structured. It's a way of learning new skills. It's about partnership between mentors and mentee. Both have to be mentors have to be committed to learning and developing others. So they have to be very strong cultural ambassadors and skilled facilitators. Learning in a mentoring situation is very much self-directed. So the mentor has to be able to question the mentee or the mentees if it's a group situation and encourage self-reflection. And this is a very different kind of skill set from coaching. The mentee must be committed to learning from their perspective as well, and have some idea what it is they're going to get out of the experience. So, it's a commitment. On the next page, you'll see a little bit about what we describe as our mentoring life cycle. We all refer to these as programs, and I really, internally at TD, we hate to call it a program. Over time, we've developed this cycle, and there's some common themes that come out of these things. But because it's very customized by individual situation, there are some things about it that are clearly not a program. There's essentially 4 stages. Stage 1 is about ensuring that everybody involved is ready to learn. Mentee in terms of knowing their expected outcome, and the mentor in terms of training and orientation. Over the past several years, TD has spent a lot of time on both these, providing webinars and other materials to make sure everybody understands their role in the process, what their expectations are. This is also where you set up norms for group sessions or parameters for one-on-one situations. And certainly over time, as this has become more common, as we've dealt with more diversity-related situations, this has become a very critical part of it. The idea is to create a comfortable learning environment for all involved. Stage 2 is about trust. Trust is fundamental to these kinds of learning activities. So stage 2 is where you get trust, you get acquainted and build the trust necessary that learning can occur. Stages 3 and 4 are where the bulk of the learning takes place. And there's lots of choice in what kinds of activities or material can be covered. We have, over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, we've created about 10 standard topics or areas of discussion that are typically covered in mentoring situations. And we have material that supports that. But that doesn't limit any of these individual mentoring situations or the group situations to just those things. People can decide what it is they would like to focus on so that everybody achieves their development objectives. The last stage, stage 4, is about progress. How are we doing? Confirming the learning that's taken place. What's next in terms of the relationship? Our experience has been that most mentoring activities take place over about 9 to 12 months, and some continue beyond that. I know we're running short on time, so I'm just going to very, very quickly mention 1 or 2 things in terms of the lessons that we've learned. First of all, I think Kari probably agree from their own experience, sponsorship is key. Ours began out of a women in leadership related initiative, and without that, it wouldn't have taken root the way it has. The mentors are key. We've had a lot of different experiences and we've learned a lot about this, but picking the right mentor is vital. And I know our senior people are very keen to participate and be good corporate citizens, but they're not always the best choice to be mentors. Flexibility in design. This is not a course. It's not a curriculum. There are some common themes, but you have to be willing in your design to accommodate all kinds of different experiences and interests. And finally, I would say test and learn. Continually ask, get feedback, adjust. Don't be afraid to experiment. Certainly with respect to the diversity agenda, we've done lots of experimenting with mixed groups so that it's not just the various diversity cohorts. I would also can't let this opportunity go by without putting in a plug for engaging external people as well. Catherine Mossup of Sage Mentors, who's been actively involved in the Triad program, has been a great resource for us. The last comment I would leave with people is be prepared for a variety of outcomes. My own experience, both as an individual mentor and as a leader of a group mentoring situation, sometimes they're great and sometimes they're just, for whatever reason, they're not going to, it won't be as effective as it might be. And be prepared for that. And that doesn't mean it's a bad idea. Dorene, back to you.
Well, you can catch your breath. Thank you. It's really nice to see how integrated mentoring is, and I promise never to call it a program again. Hopefully some of our listeners will now be inspired to follow Canadian Pacific and TD's lead. Sharing these kinds of stories is a great way for employers to learn good practices that they might be able to replicate. So for that and other reasons, Allies brought together various stakeholders earlier this month in Calgary to talk about mentoring skilled immigrants. Employers from across Canada, as well as mentors and mentees, immigrant employment councils and community agencies gathered to share stories and discuss ways to make mentoring skilled immigrants more effective for all of those involved. So here are a few highlights. Strong leadership is critical to success, and we've heard that both from Joe and Kari. One of the mentees who was on the panel said structure and support, or the mentors, said structure and support lead to stress-free mentoring experiences. So I really like that stress-free part. In terms of future directions for the next year or so, the councils will be focusing on building partnerships, improving their evaluation methodology and tools, and increasing the support that they have available to mentors. So that concludes our presentation part, and we'll now ask for questions from the audience. Again, you can just type them in the chat box on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. So here's a question for Kari. How do you recruit mentors at Canadian Pacific?
Well, we've used different methods. I think you have to have more than one way to recruit mentors. And the first would be through word of mouth, as well as through our intranet and communications vehicles. We also have diversity champions in all of our departments, representatives that I work with, and so we have informed them of the opportunity, and they spread the word as well. And by featuring some of the successes, like I said, on through our recognition program and through our communications vehicles. It sparked interest, and we've held a couple of lunch and learns where we had different people speak about their mentoring experience. We've showed some of the resources that TRIAC offers online, and we've had TRIAC come in and talk to people as well. So those are some of the ways we've been able to get people involved.
Great. Now, Kari, you mentioned that you've already had a couple of repeat mentors, and Joe, I'm sure at TD that you've had several. So either you can choose to answer this question. What brings people back? What's the appeal of mentoring a newcomer?
Did you want me to take that one, Dorene?
Sure.
Okay. I think what brings people back is, as a manager, as a leader, you're maybe looking for ways to enhance your own leadership skills, and running a mentoring group or engaging in mentoring of someone, a skilled immigrant or other, is a great way of actually enhancing your own leadership skills, because it takes you out of your own comfort zone, gets you to think about things in a different way, and demonstrates to others that you can do this. It's different from your role as a manager or leader of others in your own particular area. It's different from the peer relationships. So it's a chance to grow and stretch yourself. It's also a great way to give back to the company.
That came out so clearly in the evaluation as well. Before we move to the next question, let me just clarify something about the National Mentoring Initiative and the Allies. The program that Allies refers to is generally a relationship of 24 hours over 24 weeks. So it works out to about an hour a week. So I do have another question for you, Joe. What are some of the key qualities or characteristics an effective mentor should have? You mentioned that what I took from what you said was that not everybody is suited to be a good mentor.
Absolutely. That's a very, very key question. We spent a lot of time thinking about this because it's a little counterintuitive. A mentor has to be very good at asking the right question and getting the mentee or a group of mentees to self-reflect. So if you're going in there to coach or to performance manage these people, it's going to be unsuccessful. So the key is to be very sure of yourself in terms of what your expectations are, but also be a facilitator. So it's a facilitator learning. You have to help the other person learn. You can't make a presentation. You can't tell. You have to ask, and that's key. And that's why we've spent a lot of time doing training and orientation for mentors over the past couple of years.
Right. So those coaching opportunities will have to come through another avenue.
Yep.
Kari, how long is the mentoring relationship at CP?
Well, it's the standard that you talked about, the 24 hours over 24 weeks. But I will say, as being a mentor, I've stayed in touch with the people that I've been working with, and I have no problem with helping them out or answering questions or even getting together for a coffee. And I think the same has the mentors within CP. A number of them have maintained that relationship.
And Joe, at TD, you mentioned that the relationship went on quite long. Did it end formally and then continue informally?
So, I would say typically they've been 9 to 12 months, but I think there's a great variance in that. Some group sessions can be, 6 sessions over a course of 6 months, and other individual ones will certainly go, 9, 12, 15 months. There's not a good start and end, or not a good end date to these kinds of things, but we do encourage people to do a checkpoint at some point to say, okay, are we still getting value out of this? Are the things that we still want to learn together? I would say that on average, 8 to 10 months is a good timeline to say, is this still good or should we continue?
So that ties in with what you said about flexibility.
Yep.
Could you define for the group what a group session is?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Okay, so at TD, what we've done, our group mentoring is we identify 2 leaders to co-lead as group mentors, and 12 to 15 mentees from, it could be all women, it could be mixed groups who've done a lot of experimenting with this. And, the first session, they meet and introduce each other and figure out what is the shared learning objective of the group. and then over the course of meetings over the ensuing months, they work on achieving that, either through presentations from others, group discussions, work, what have you. There's a variety of ways they can achieve their whatever development objectives they settle on. And that's where I say we've got some core material that people can follow if they're looking for a topic, or they can pick their own.
Great, thanks. Kari, here's a question for you. We know that you work for a large organization. Do you think this model of mentoring can be used in small businesses as well?
Oh, for sure. We're a large organization, but when you're talking about the professional immigrant, our professional ranks are much smaller than our operating ranks. And yeah, I think it definitely could be applied in much smaller situations. And when we're talking about the different cities, it's a smaller, sort of a little mini company in different locations. So yeah, for sure.
Great. I'm just going to check to see if there are one or two more questions before we close, and we'll be finished by 1 o'clock. Here's a question from someone. Would it be a good idea to match a mentor and a mentee based on language similarities when English is not their first language? So I take that to mean if you had a Spanish-speaking mentee, would you be trying to find a mentor who spoke Spanish? Joe, what do you think?
I think the short answer is yes. I mean, I think the whole point of this is that the learning situation has to be comfortable. So if there's immediately a language barrier, that's going to make for an uncomfortable situation. So I think if we were faced with that, we would try and find people who could support from the language perspective to make sure that it was a comfortable learning experience for the individual.
It might also give the working professional a chance to share some really important terminology.
Yes.
And give some really
which is
good
key, right?
Yeah. Yep, because that can be a barrier. So here's the last question. Here's a request, actually, more than a question. Would TD or CP be willing to partner with small business organizations to share their experiences?
Well, I definitely CP would be willing to share experiences, and I think the CRIAC and TRIAC organizations would be able to help as well. If we weren't available, there may be other organizations that could help out that way.
And certainly I would echo that. I mean, I would say that TRIAC in Toronto and the equivalents in all the other cities is a great place to start. Would TD be willing? Of course. We have the experiences and resources that we'd be happy to share with our materials and our experiences as need be. And obviously there's a wide range of people on this presentation. I would encourage people to, if we can help you in some way, I would be more than happy to try and help.
Well, as we wrap up today, I'd like to thank you, Kari and Joe, for joining me in this dialogue and for being such fabulous ambassadors for mentoring for skilled immigrants.